We have the crossover. We do ADPs. We're bridging formats, breaking ADP. Right now, we're breaking redraft and best ball. We are getting to that part of the season where you're going to have your home league drafts. And we have our risers and fallers, and this is just going to be a good exercise on how we should treat redraft while looking at the best ball streets, particularly right now, underdog. Chev, Keenan Allen gets signed in the last week by the Chargers. Keenan Allen up 40 spots, early round 17, up 4 rounds to round 13. You also have the requisite fallers on the opposite end of that pendulum. Quentin Johnson and Trey Harris for the Chargers, both down 14 spots. Quentin Johnson goes late 12 to late 13, and then Trey Harris goes late 9 to early round 11. They're getting discarded. It's essentially the Lab McConkey show and cleaning up Keenan Allen with Justin Herbert. It's memories of past production with Keenan Allen. A 4-round rise. What do you make of this, Chev? And in redraft streets and best ball streets, are you clicking round 13 Keenan Allen?
You know, Jeremiah, my granddaddy once told me, he said, what did he say? He said, people don't remember the late nights that you spent at the office, but they remember how much Keenan Allen you drafted in best ball when he was still unsigned. And so with that, you should be fairly overweight in Keenan Allen because it was a free click. And if you follow some of the best ball bros on the Twitter Xverse, all they would talk about is how much Keenan Allen they were drafting because Keenan Allen's still really good at American tackle football. So with a guy like Keenan Allen, I'm all in. The point, even though I didn't want to agree with it, the point was always correct. Like Keenan Allen was going to get signed by a team, and you want that exposure. You wanted that exposure, that 17th round exposure. You wanted as much of it as humanly possible because he's going to play a role. And now we get the nuts as a landing spot, and he's back with a guy that he has tremendous rapport with. If you recall, the last time that he was in a Chargers uniform, he put up a career year. He put up 1,200 yards in basically 13 games and was basically he was 21 points a game. So I'm all over this. I love it. I absolutely love his movement. Now, the guy that I would love to talk about is a guy who's number 2 on this list in terms of risers, and that's Croskey-Merritt. So this move, we saw the preseason. We've been hearing the steam. Now, a lot of people will say it's noise because 7th round picks always look really good when it's just the underwear Olympics and they're just out there doing, they're out there doing installs and everybody's trying to get a little extra like fake hustle in and try to get the, gain the eye of the coaches. Well, now we got real football, and we saw everything that he put on tape so far, real football wise, shows that he has all the tools. And I don't care what you say. Brian Robinson is the jag of all jags, and I will accept no further questions at this time. And this kid has juice. So seeing Croskey-Merritt, hopefully you've been clicking that button quite a bit. I've been all over this for quite some time, but now he's starting to get the steam because people are seeing that real football is being played. And the Washington Commanders coaching staff, led by Cliff Kingsbury, is looking for a spark in that running game. And I think that this is the guy that can do it for us.
A neat thing that you can do late in these drafts, when we're talking round 15 to round 18, and you see them further buried a player down on the depth chart, you can just look at who is tied to an elite offense and see a ticket in the path. If you see any matriculation up the depth chart, even being possible, and that combination of being on an elite offense, you got to be excited. You got to file that away. I look at this as a better version of Elijah Moore on the Bills, tied to Josh Allen, but you have an electric offense and a top-tier offense, top-tier quarterback as well, Jaden Daniels. So Croskey-Merritt is tied to Jaden Daniels. If you just tell that story of, hey, he's going to be in the huddle with Jaden Daniels and possibly be the starter or get a run, a string of starts, you could get injury attrition, be it Eckler. He had a couple of concussions last year. He missed some time for that. And then, of course, like you say, Brian Robinson, very much a jag. As much as we wanted him to just, hey, 9th, 10th round, fall into the end zone last year, he's being adequately priced the same for that same outcome in a 0.5 PPR format. But in redraft streets, I don't want Brian Robinson Jr. There's no upside. There's no juice there. Croskey-Merritt is the perfect upside player. And right now, he's up 18.5 spots in the last week, up 2 rounds, late round 15. We're talking round 15 to round 18 is still a sweet, amazing spot. This thing could go up to 12. It could go up to 13 where Keenan Allen is, and I'd be still happy to make the click. You're getting a different ripple in these best ball streets versus the field, because then what was a 17th round, 18th round Croskey-Merritt is now somebody like a Tory Horton, right? Who we can talk about next. Tory Horton running with the ones in Seattle. I feel like a lot of times Seattle things get forgotten because they're stuffed all the way up in the upper left corner. If I'm looking at the map up in the west, they're out of sight, out of mind. We like JSN. There's a little bit of Cooper Kupp buzz. Sam Darnold, can he connect? But there's not really too much diving deep into the weeds because they're not a sexy team, right? But they're going to field plenty of talent. Elijah Arroyo looks very good, but we're hearing about Tory Horton running with the ones. He scored a touchdown in that preseason game in the last week, late round 18 to middle of round 17. Not much of a ripple at all as far as how it affects the flow of your best ball teams. But is he somebody who you think you would want to draft week in, week out to have for the redraft season? Or do you think he's just a better best ball pick?
Here's the thing. When we saw this landing spot, my eyes lit up because people are automatically going to discount a 5th round pick as, oh, cannon fodder in a crowded wide receiver room. But you got to know a little bit of ball. You got to dig a little bit deeper. That's why you come to Legendary Ball Knower, get some legendary ball knowledge. And what I'm about to drop off is the fact that it's real simple here. Tory Horton only has to beat out MVS and Jake Bobo to get onto the field as a rookie. And we're starting to see him stack days. Like, this is a guy who was easily going to be a day 2 pick had he not torn his knee up at Colorado State. So now he's earning reps with the ones. He showed himself well in the preseason game this past week. He's going to earn more reps with the ones, and it's looking more and more like he's going to matter from week 1 forward. So this price right here, going in the early 17th, or excuse me, mid 17th now, is a price that I'm comfortable paying. And if you built any sort of stack with Ken Walker and then you backdoor it with JSN, and then, or excuse me, you go with JSN and you go Ken Walker, you're building a Seahawks super stack. I would take the bet, okay, if you're going to double up on receivers, instead of going Cooper Kupp in best ball, I would go with Tory Horton. I mean, he's got home run ability. Cooper Kupp, his yards per route run absolutely evaporated from when lined up anywhere outside the slot past week 12. Now, he was the wide receiver 8 or something like that from weeks 8 to 12. But the reason that he's no longer in Los Angeles is because they didn't think he could play anymore. And so now he's back he's in his home state. He's with the Rams. He's with the Seahawks. And I think that he could be fine, but I would rather take a shot on a guy. If you're not familiar with Tory Horton, Colorado State, 1,000-yard years in 2022 and 2023, tears his knee up in 2024, runs 4.41 at the combine. It just came out that he said that he was about 70% when he turned in a 4.41. So I'm interested to see. So he's got the long speed profile, and there's a glaring need for someone to play on the outside and win for the Seahawks offense. And you can go back to Clint Kubiak's days in New Orleans a year ago and look at the way that Rashid Shaheed was used as a lid lifter on the defense, and you can create a role. It's a perfect for best ball role. So mid 17, if I'm building a Seahawks super stack, or if I just want to take an upside swing on a rookie that nobody's talking about, I'm all over this.
And if you decide late on QB or push QB late in these best ball drafts, you can get Sam Darnold in late round 15. So then just 2 rounds later, you have that decision of you can get Elijah Arroyo and you can get Tory Horton here. And you kind of said something really good. It reminds me of Thornton, Dante Thornton, a lid lifter. With Horton, you can lift the lid and it can open up things even better. Imagine being a little bit easier for somebody like Jackson Smith and Jigba. You can have this happen for Brock Bowers. I think things can open up for the Raiders with Horton and Ashton Jeanty. Somebody was asking me about Ashton Jeanty recently, and I told them, like, look, you're going to have the lid lifting because we're parallel topics here with Horton and Thornton. You're just going to have that lid lifting ability, and it's going to free up the box. You're not going to be able to stuff the box as if it were Penn State against Ashton Jeanty. So Very happy with what you had to say. I would just say delineate. You want to acquire cheaply in Dynasty. Redraft, I would stay away. Best ball streets, it's a great dart throw. And realistically, not everybody is going to be, as we start off the show, Keenan Allen. Those round 15 through 18, that latter bit, those last couple of rounds, you're lucky if you get 2 or 3 really boom spike weeks. If you end up getting an every weeker or more weeks than not type of player, like what we see Keenan Allen doing as not being cooked, you are getting a massive payout. Same thing as we discussed before with Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt. But it's funny how August crystallizes these things, and these late round picks are so popular. We'll do one more riser before we get to our fallers. Braelon Allen up 9.9 spots. Chev, late round 14 to late round 13. All the buzz about Breece Hall possibly getting traded. You see Time Will Tell on X by Breece Hall. We will see what happens with Breece Hall long term. You're getting rumors about trade deadline. It may not be today, but as Breece Hall says, time will tell. How high are you on Braelon Allen? Are you clicking the button in redraft and in best ball?
So there's signal and there's noise, right? There's the noise that, you know, Breece Hall lost a step last year. Breece Hall was terrible down the stretch. You know, it comes out that he's fighting an injury. They hire a new coach and Aaron Glenn, and they bring in Tanner Engstrand, and they say that they want to use a committee approach, and they've been staunch about that. And then, you know, we get to the preseason, we get to their action. I'm actually looking at the replay of the game right now while we're still recording this, and you see that it's a complete committee. There's 10 snaps for Justin Fields. There were 5 for Breece Hall, 3 for Isaiah Davis, and 2 for Braelon Allen. Now, I do think that the role for Braelon Allen is more of, you can look at Detroit and the way that they've used Jamal Williams and David Montgomery. I think he's going to handle a lot of the inside the 5 work. I think that's going to cap Breece Hall's upside potentially. So I'm clicking the button. I'm clicking the button on Braelon Allen in best ball because I do think that this is going to be one of the most run heavy teams in the league. And it does allow us an opportunity to get in, you know, to buy cheap on, you know, one of the most run heavy teams in the league, like I alluded to. So if he's going to be a part of a committee and he's a 13th round pick, and we think this is going to be one of the most run heavy teams in the league, I don't see why you're not clicking the button. And then if you saw the preseason run, you can see that he's clearly got juice, and this system just lines up perfect for what his skill set is made for at 240 pounds as a bruising, you know, early down, short yardage, whatever you want type of back. So in Dynasty, acquire cheaply. In redraft, I 1000% would make him one of my last round picks, or bump that up a few rounds if I selected Breece inside of the top 36 picks. In best ball, yes, like that's a no-brainer. You want a piece of this offense. You want to get attached to. I mean, it doesn't seem like a winning proposition to acquire a bunch of Jets pass catchers. So let's get a hold of the backfield. They've upgraded the offensive line. Like, we don't have to be in on all the weapons. We just need to be in on the weapons that are going to score the most points for this offense. And if you don't have Garrett Wilson, beyond that, I'm looking at all the running backs. Who's going to score the fantasy points? Justin Fields, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson. And if you want another piece, I would bet on Braelon Allen. So that's where I'm at right now. Like I said, Dynasty, I'm buying cheap because, you know, Breece Hall could be in a different uniform. Time will tell, as you said earlier. In redraft, yes, it's well worth it. It's well worth it to take a stab at a committee that's going to be one of the most run-heavy teams in the league, we think. And then in best ball, this click is an easy click just because you want to get someone in this range that's going to have some sort of meaningful role.
Last year, Tyler Algier, Braelon Allen, 2 backs who you would say, hey, if Bijan goes down, Breece goes down, both Algier and Braelon Allen, as the season wore on, it was like, hey, stash them away, especially as you wanted to cuff as you get closer to the playoffs. But if you have them, they would be a top 12 running back. Well, the beauty is that still applies. Tyler Algier goes in early round 14 right now. Or sorry, yes, I'm looking at my dates. It's early round 14. He's actually fallen just a little bit. Braelon Allen goes late round 13. So they're neck and neck at ADP. I've clicked a ton of Tyler Algier, but I'm clicking plenty of Braelon Allen as well, because the thought being Braelon Allen can print me points guaranteed every week, it sounds like, with the role. Whereas Tyler Algier, you would need really something to take off as far as an injury for Bijan Robinson. We don't like to think about that, but such is the case. If you're in best ball and you have Brees, I think you bet with Tyler Algier because you push against the other 11 people in your room and against the one person who has Bijan Robinson. So then you have Brees, Algier, or if it's somebody gets Bijan Robinson, you want to go and get Braelon Allen. So you're pushing against and you're trying to get some asymmetrical, huge, high upside there. So I'm absolutely in Dynasty. It's a cheap startup Dynasty price. In redraft, definitely want to click with that in mind. It's very much you're getting cheaper David Montgomery. And to your point, Chev, go to the well where it is. The points are going to be scored via the run game. It's not necessarily, well, we have to fill up the receiver box, the tight end box, the quarterback, and one running back. It can be malleable where Braelon Allen is maybe second in the order to Brees and Wilson is third, or Wilson is second, and Braelon Allen some weeks is just behind Garrett Wilson. It doesn't have to be a set order, rigid that we're thinking. Now, we have been talking about redraft plenty, but we still got to get brushed up on Dynasty. Let's hear from the Podfather.
If you play in Dynasty, you need Dynasty Deluxe, our premium package for Dynasty Leaguers. We rank over 300 players, updated every week, all year long. And there's a win now mode and a rebuild mode with superflex and tight end premium controls. And a Dynasty League sync where you can say, sync down all of my sleeper teams, all my FFPC teams, and then you can browse around your leagues for who has needs, and then you can use our trade finder to see what kinds of trades are happening in leagues that are similar to the one I want to do. Then you can analyze trades using our trade analyzer, which balances the lifetime value, which includes pick values out to like 2028. All of that plus the rookie guide, $25 value is included. So if you're just in one Dynasty League, Dynasty Deluxe is well worth it. And use your host's promo code, and you can bump up to all in and get $25 off.
Now let's go to people who are falling. Quinshon Judkins is just an obvious one. We don't really have to spend any time on that. We know the situation there. Stay abreast of what's going on in the illegal situation in the meantime. Probably a massive stay away, but for Dynasty. Chev, we have spoken on QJ and Trey Harris falling, Keenan Allen rising. Jack Bech has fallen 14 spots in the last week, late round 14 to early round 16. The word is out on Dante Thornton. Are you drafting that way as well? Do you see some viability for Jack Bech to just be good on the seams, run underneath, be a big body, big presence? Can he do some of that Senior Bowl stuff that he did in the NFL? What's going on? Where does he going to fit in this offense that is getting crowded with Jakobi Meyers, Brock Bowers, Ashton Shanty, and we have a lid lifter in Dante Thornton? Where does Jack Bech fit?
He doesn't fit. He doesn't fit for me. There's a lot of skill set overlap between he and Jakobi Meyers. And so I have not been clicking the button on on Jack Bech in redraft Dynasty in any format for 2025. I would rather make the adjustment and pivot to a later round Jakobi Meyers. I want to say he's in like the 7th or 8th round. And
sometimes up into the 6th, but right there.
But yeah, I'd rather make the mid-round click on somebody who we know is one of the most underrated receivers in the league, or Dante Thornton, who the only other receiver to be 6'5" and run a 4.3, over 200 pounds, run a 4.3, is Calvin Johnson. So he's in elite company athletically. Is he Calvin Johnson? Not at all. Probably not. History and time itself would tell us that he's probably not going to be Calvin Johnson. But I would bet on the traits and the discount that we're getting with or him being in the same range as a Jack Bech. I would much rather make the click on that because we're seeing him get first team reps. There's no redundant skill set overlap, the only skill set overlap is with Trey Tucker, a 5'9", 180-pound speedster, who I just laid out the case for Dante Thornton. So yeah, no, I'm out. No thank you whatsoever on Jack Bech.
In the Raiders preseason opener, I saw a ball get significantly underthrown on the highlights. And sure enough, on the deep ball, who was running and cooking on that route, it was Dante Thornton. So just one of those fun things. If you're paying attention and you know and are in the loop, you know ball, you know what the players are, where they're at, you can see this coming a mile away. Redraft streets, I would be very careful with Horton. I'm so happy to click him. And to their point, I've had requisite amount of Jack Bech, but can't get too enthused, as you had said. Redundant skill set with Jacoby Myers. And I know Geno Smith is going to throw plenty more, but I don't think there's going to be plenty of room for somebody like Jack Bech. Now, let's talk about this one. Might hurt a little bit, but you still may love it. Rashee Rice in the last week down 9 spots, late round 3rd, middle round 4. Sometimes you can get him. I got him one time at pick 53. So we're talking about there is a dip here. Are you buying? And especially in redraft, Chev, if you can get him in the 5th round, are you going to push off because you know you can get a top 5 upside receiver?
You see that?
Keep it coming.
That's me asking for more Rashee Rice. I want as much Rashee Rice as humanly possible in this price range. Now, I did record a show with Pete where we talked about Pete Nova, on the Player Profiler Network. I mean, great work. But I could not click the button on Rashee Rice when he was in the back end of the 2nd. This mid 4th and people assuming that he's going to be suspended for like 6 to 8 games is the key to generational wealth. You guys understand that? Do we all understand that? Right? Like, I could go on Best Ball Night School and just give a verbal dissertation about how much I love this new price point for Rashee Rice. The 43.7? Are you joking?
And dipping sometimes more than that.
Yes. And yeah, so to your point, I was in I want to say a fast draft, the rabbit the other day, new rabbit competition, which again, hadn't done that. You need to promo code Cross, get in there. I absolutely could not believe that Rashee Rice was there in the 5th round. Could not believe it. Could not believe it. So, yes, I'm buying this dip all day long. He's got the low A-dot roll. We're going to see Travis Kelce get off to a tremendous start. I assume Xavier Worthy's going to get off to a tremendous start. I think that Jalen Royals, who there's a lot of skill set overlap with, is going to, fill in very admirably for Rashee Rice during the suspension that I only think is going to be about 4 games. So, yeah, I'm clicking that button all day long and twice on Sunday.
And I love what you said about Royals right there. I'm formulating it. It's in my brain, this thought of you draft any redraft team. This is the exercise. Any redraft team where you take Rashee Rice at the end, which right now on Underdog, late round 17 on Jalen Royals. So in redraft streets, he's going to be stuffed in there with all the late round players. You'll be able to pry him off most of your redraft teams. You can get Jalen Royals, who is a skill set overlap with somebody like Rashee Rice, just of course a rookie, less experience, and you'll be able to just patch together some Jalen Royals weeks. I actually think Jalen Royals can absolutely cook. The Chiefs are very high on him. That the low A-dot throw mode, you can get him there for such a cheap price. I would actually park Royals week 1 on the bench in your redraft managed leagues, see him cook, and then, hey, you know what? Trust it until that suspension lifts, because I think it's just going to be as simple as veteran deference for a better receiver in Rashee Rice. But Jalen Royals, the Chiefs have a type here, and talk about perfect planning. Let's say back week 7 is Rashee Rice. You can get Jalen Royals for that cheap of a price. You can miss out. Here's the war value, the value over replacement. Instead of Xavier Worthy, you can go and get another key core player to your build. And of course, you're going to burn a pick on Rashee Rice, and you can then get Jalen Royals. So you don't have to pay entirely up on the Chiefs. And granted, if you're going to take Rashee Rice, you're not necessarily going to want to get Xavier Worthy. So you'll still squeeze Chiefs share in your redraft leagues versus best ball. Hey, click as many Chiefs as you want. But in redraft, you can value over replacement, have a different skill position player earlier, draft Rashee Rice, and then later go and get Jalen Royals. What do you think of that, Chev?
I absolutely love that. And one other point that I wanted to make sure that I brought up was that if you don't really understand the skill set overlap, you're not that familiar with Jalen Royals. Rashee Rice, who's in this low A-dot role that was being peppered with targets by Mahomes, his college film at SMU is almost identical to Jalen Royals. So there's just like this Venn diagram skill set, like, hey, this is a guy. We drafted another guy. It's very similar to when the Chiefs drafted Mecole Hardman to replace Tyreek Hill. Now, obviously, that failed miserably because he's
But
not.
you saw the mind.
But you see the mind and the way that they want to try to use this guy, and he's represented himself well. He hasn't failed all the tests like Mecole Hardman has. So, yeah,
Hey,
I love what you said.
speaking of the mind, Brashard Smith, Jerick McKinnon. We'll leave you. We'll
Don't you
wander
dare!
over
Don't
Smith.
do this on. No, we're not talking
This is
about. We're
good.
not.
This is good. This is good, right?
Don't
You
do it.
want discounts. You down 8.2 spots. Can you tell me, Chev, what you think is behind this? Early round 17 to late round 17, Brashard Smith fallen somehow. All I know is I see him cooking in practice highlights. Are these moonballs? Is that Russ Wilson throwing it to Brashard Smith? We
So,
already talked about the archetype. Yeah, Cook, man. Please give me all the Brashard Smith, but go off.
the issue here is that people are assuming that Isaiah Pacheco is going to go back to his assumed workhorse duties that he took on prior to the leg break, or whatever you want to call it, from last year. And so I think that they've been intentional about bringing in guys that fill roles of when they were more apt to score quickly and strike with authority. And they've spoken about wanting to get back to more of that. So Brashard Smith is their best chance in the backfield at doing that. They do have Elijah Mitchell, who, again, we're overusing the term skill set overlap this episode, mostly my fault. But again, they are very similar players that both liken themselves more so to Jerick McKinnon than, the Isaiah Pachecos or the Kareem Hunts. And so I do think there's going to spike. The Chiefs were 12th in target share to the running back last year. I think that number goes back closer to a top 10 level, or I think they were around 10th the last Jerick McKinnon year, where he was like 25 points a game during the fantasy playoffs. So yeah, Brashard Smith, I've been screaming it from the hilltops for so long. I know people are automatically assuming that there's no way that a 7th rounder can matter again, but you literally just look at their roster and it's filled with guys. Like, they replaced a 1st rounder that they took on his rookie contract with a 7th rounder. So hey, don't say, you can say I talk a lot, but you can't say I don't know what I'm talking about. So go get you some 17th round Brashard Smith, please. And thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
And not for nothing, with going back to the skill set overlap that you mentioned for the Tyreek down to Mecole Hardman, while the process was sound in understanding, it wasn't Tyreek Hill. But it can absolutely go the opposite way as far as we had Jerick McKinnon, but now maybe we just get a lengthier stint of Jerick McKinnon from the jump in somebody like Brashard Smith, and we get 17 weeks or however many games he plays. Hopefully it's full health, right? But let's just assume 15 games, and Brashard Smith just fills this excellent role. I'm all about it, and he's just going to be another player who I'm going to want to draft late just for that upside. And what if we get this hybrid between the James White role in New England and some of this downfield that we're seeing in training camp, and just that overlap of being able to be a skilled receiver and a runner of the football on tailgate and all the contests on Underdog for college football. I've been drafting Adam Randall because he's Clemson, had been a receiver. Now he's going to get running backs. So now I'm becoming a sicko for this type of archetype. If I can see it in the pro game, you can see it in the college game. So I'm having fun with this. And that visualization of getting receiver share in the running back spot is phenomenal. I just love it. And same thing can happen we've seen it with Debo, where he got running back share. For some reason, it really works when it pops, when the player gets full role for the position that isn't necessarily theirs. We'll see possibly with Tyler Warren, if he's getting carries. He had over 200 rushing yards last year. It was, I think, 8 yards per carry, something nuts for a tight end. And just, you love that when when players basically they're breaking off and getting a piece of something that isn't quite theirs position wise traditionally. Same thing. That's why we love Konami code quarterbacks. They're breaking off from the running game. So little diatribe there, but yeah, I'm hyped, man. I really like it a lot. We got risers, we got fallers. Hopefully you've ended up a little bit more knowledgeable. We're getting into the redraft streets, and hopefully this helps for you. This has been Chev, Coach Retzlaff. We will see you next week.
From the Podfather to you, I deeply appreciate you tuning in. And many ask, what can I do? What can I do to help support the hosts, the research they do, the production costs? Go to PlayerProfiler.com, Dynasty Deluxe, World Famous Draft Kit, Rankings, DFS Dominator, and of course, Data Analysis. Subscribe to any one of those, and you support all of us and take Player Profiler to the moon.